Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser, and it is a gorgeous Monday here in the Pacific Northwest. I hope you all are ready for the week ahead. I certainly am looking forward to it myself. It is a mandatory mini camp week for the Seahawks tomorrow. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they are scheduled to have practices open to the media. We will find out if Thursday actually happens. I think in some of the past years, they've let the guys go a day early as a reward if they've done really well. And so at least tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I expect to be there. And man, Wednesday, it's going to be an interesting one. I turned 50 on Wednesday. Yes, old man River over here. And I'm going to try to get a round of golf in before I head to this facility. And then, I'm trying to figure out if I can get something going with the Seahawks. I'm turning 50, their 50th season, top 50 players. I feel like there's something we got to be able to do on Wednesday. My guess is they're going to be like, nah, but we'll see if we can do something fun. I got a couple ideas. I'll run by them and we'll see. Should have some additional player interviews for you as well. So make sure if you haven't already, click subscribe, join the growing community here. We've got over 20,000 subscribers on our way to 25, 30 and beyond. Would love to add you to the list. Also, head over to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Get ad-free audio of this show each and every day, as well as access to the Discord channel where there are conversations happening all the time about the Seahawks, the Mariners, all sorts of stuff around sports and even TV and movies, all sorts of fun stuff. So head on over there, patreon.com/hawkblogger. Okay. We got a bit of news. Which is a welcome thing when you're doing a show each day. And the news of the day is that the Green Bay Packers have released Jaire Alexander. And, I'm just starting this show thinking, man, I hope I haven't really checked the pronunciation. I think it's Jaire Alexander. But if I do this whole show mispronouncing his name, you can clown me on that for sure. Anyway, Jaire Alexander is a multiple-time Pro Bowl cornerback, has been a second-team All-Pro cornerback during his career, and he is now a free agent. The Green Bay Packers have are going to outright release Jaire Alexander from their roster after trying to trade him this offseason. And you may have some recollection of, hey, like, where have I heard this before? Well, I think when Corbin Smith had reported that teams had inquired about DK Metcalf, I think he also implied that his sources said that Jaire Alexander being included, that they could get something like the DK Metcalf compensation back in a trade, and that's why the Packers were willing to give up a first-round pick and a receiver in order to do this. And there was, I think, a lot of people that questioned that report, because the expectation was not only was Jaire Alexander not going to return something similar to DK Metcalf in a trade, it wasn't going to be close to what DK Metcalf would return in a trade. And at that point, Corbin, I think, was reporting that it was going to be a first-round pick plus a player from the Packers. So it turns out the Packers were trying to trade him, and I'll talk to you about that in a second, but that the compensation was never agreed to. And with them releasing him, obviously it was nothing close to a first-round pick that people are offering in return for the star cornerback. We're going to talk about, for example, for a second, about who he is as a player, why he's available. But I want to go through a few of the reports that are out there so we can kind of talk through, because there's some interesting information that's been released already this morning. All right. So this came out from, early, couple hours ago or this morning. And there is Tom Silverstein, who is a good, reputable reporter for that covers the Packers for, I think it's the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, says he can confirm that the Ian Rappaport report, Ian Rappaport report. Say that 5 times fast. That the Packers are releasing Jaire Alexander today. They never got close to an agreement and were stuck in limbo with no solution. The team wasn't going to pay him full salary, and he knew he'd make more on the open market than what Green Bay would offer. All right. There's a lot of good information in that tweet. So they never got close to an agreement. That implies that the Packers did want to retain Jaire Alexander. This was not a situation where he was such, we're going to talk about some of the reasons why he's available, but it wasn't such a terrible situation that the Packers wanted nothing to do with him. They did want to retain him, but they wanted to restructure the deal. I'll talk about that more in a second. Also, it says here they never got close and that they were stuck in limbo with no solution, meaning that there was no team that was going to trade for him. And there's another piece here that I'll share in a second about why a trade probably wasn't going to get consummated. The other piece here is that it says the team wasn't going to pay him full salary, and he knew he would make more on the open market than Green Bay would offer. Let's look at that for a second. So they weren't going to offer him his full salary. You might be asking, well, what was his full salary? Well, his full salary for this season, according to overthecap.com, would have been $16 million base salary. He would have counted $24 million against the cap for the Packers this season. So they weren't going to pay him that $16 million salary. Well, the fact that Jaire Alexander believes he is going to get more than they will pay on the open market gives you an idea of the price tag he's looking for. Maybe it's not $16 million. Maybe it is. Maybe they believe that they can get higher than what he's currently getting paid on the open market. I'm not sure that's true. Let's take a quick look at the cornerback market so you can see we can see what are some of the deals that have been struck of late. Obviously, Derek Stingley Jr. just signed a huge deal. He's getting paid $30 million a year. J.C. Horn just got paid from the Panthers. He's getting paid $25 million a year. We've talked about Jalen Ramsey before at $24 million. Patrick Surtain is at $24 million a year. And then Jaire Alexander is actually fifth at an APY of 21. So I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, he's expecting probably to get paid in that range. And depending on what kind of demand there is, maybe he will. But let's keep talking about what the other information is that we have about the situation. So Tom Silverstein goes on in a second tweet to say the Packers had a trade in place with another team earlier in the year, but the other team wouldn't pay Alexander's full $17 million salary. Alexander didn't want to take less, and so the trade never happened. Okay? A lot of good information there as well. Packers did have a trade in place with another team. This is highly unlikely that it was the Seahawks, but in any event, they did have a deal with another team. The other team wouldn't pay Alexander's full $17 million salary. So you've got a team that wanted to trade for him, but they weren't going to pay him full freight with that trade. Alexander won't take less. So now we know his expectation is $17 million. Like he's expecting full salary, maybe more. He might be expecting $20 million, like at least $17 million per year for Jaire Alexander. So now, what do we know? We know that the Packers did want to keep him. They didn't want to pay him full salary. They would not pay him full salary. Jaire Alexander would not agree to take less than his full salary. We know that another team was willing to make a trade for him. So there's obviously interest in him, but they're not willing to pay him full salary. So what you end up with is a player on the open market who will get what the market bears. Love a free market. So I think what this means we'll get back to what does this all mean for Seattle, but I want to stick with who the player is first. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about whether this is a fit. And Jason from overthecap.com says the Alexander release should have happened months ago. Packers have just over $17 million in dead money from this deal, or for this. They'll split this $7.5 million in 2025 and $9.5 million in 26. Cap savings are $17.2 million this year and $17.5 million in 26. So again, we now know that, this is a pretty big cost that the Packers are enduring in order. They're also saving money, but it's a pretty big deal to walk away from this player. So let's learn more about who this guy is if you don't know. So Jaire Alexander was drafted by the Packers 2017 draft, I want to say. Let me double check that. 2018 was his first season with the Packers. He has, by his third season, was a Pro Bowl cornerback and a second-team All-Pro. That was in 2020. In 2022, he also was a Pro Bowl cornerback and a second-team All-Pro. If I look at his PFF grades, and I'm having to look at my phone for this because PFF is having some sort of issue on their authorization. Doesn't matter. I've got it. At least I can look at it on my phone. He has had at least a 72 grade every single year as a corner. His coverage grades have never been lower than 73, and that was his first year. Since his rookie year, he has never been lower than a 75 coverage grade. He's generally been in the high 70s. And in 2020, his best season, he had a 90 coverage grade. That is very rare. It's very rare to have 90 coverage grades from PFF. So that's excellent. It is worth noting, Jaire Alexander has a similar issue to one Mr. Woolen, or at least a former issue that Woolen had. He is not a good run defender. He has not had his last two seasons when he's played. His run defense grade has been in the 50s. All right. Anything under 60 is below league average. Keep in mind, Riq Woolen changed that story last year. He was actually one of the better run defending corners in the NFL by multiple different measures, whether it's PFF, Field Vision Pro, a number of different places have Riq Woolen making a pretty strong improvement as a run defending corner, despite what you may think. So really, really good cover corner. Let's take a look at some of what Field Vision has for him here. I think it's always worth taking a look at this stuff. Field Vision Pro, they've got great stuff here. It's not the easiest thing to read, but what I'm looking at here is this is cornerback snaps per reception versus snaps per target. And you've got Elijah Molden. This is just looking at cornerbacks. Way over here as the number one ranked guy. Then you've got Marshawn Lattimore as number two. This is, what year are we looking at here? This is 2024. Marshawn Lattimore was that high? Something seems off on that. Pat Surtain, that makes more sense. Carrington Valentine is a underrated guy for the Packers. Jalen Johnson for Chicago, that makes sense. Christian Benford for Buffalo also makes sense. Sauce Gardner. So you're getting like the good quality corners in this list, right? And there's AJ Terrell. There's Sam Womack for the Colts. And hidden back here is Jaire Alexander. He ranked 7th among corners in snaps per reception. He ranked 11th among corners in snaps per target. If we look at some other targeted EPA per 100 versus success percentage, this is a little bit messier. And let's see if we can find Jaire Alexander in here. Oh, I don't know if I can. It's messy in there. We'll scroll down to the table here. It's a little bit easier to look on this one. So let's look at the table view, and we will look at targeted EPA per 100. And Let's see if we can find where Jaire Alexander is in this list. There he is, 36. He ranks 36 among corners, literally right next to Reek Woolen, and right next to Devin Witherspoon. Interesting. Targeted success rate. Let's take a look at that. And if we look for Jaire Alexander, well, there's Reek Woolen at 35. Scrolling. I'm not sure I'm seeing where Jaire. Oh, there he is. All the way down at 71. So, not as good there. He is an outside corner. He's not your slot guy. He's a decent amount of press. 24% of his coverage snaps were in press. He had 3 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. And let's take a look at kind of his coverage chart here. So I'll share this with you. You've got an interesting view here where he was the 28th ranked corner overall last year by Cody Alexander's Havoc rating. He was a 12th ranked corner in zone. So good zone cover corner, 72nd in man. That's interesting. If you go back to his last quality season where he played, we'll talk about why I'm saying in the last quality season. He was the 15th ranked cornerback in 2022. Interestingly, he is consistently a better zone cover corner, at least by this measure. He's 13th ranked zone cover corner here, 110th man cover corner. His run defense was actually better that year, 21st. We go back to 2020, which was his best year. He was the 7th ranked cornerback by Cody Alexander's Havoc rating then, 16th in man, 9th in zone. So consistently, he is a better zone cover corner than he is man. That's a decent fit for what the Seahawks do. The Seahawks play a lot of zone coverage, as do a lot of teams nowadays. Now, so why does a player like Jaire Alexander become available? Well, injury is a key part of this. Jaire Alexander has played more than 7 games in a season once in the last 4 years. So you're talking about a guy that in 2022, he played 16 games, but every other season, 2021, it was 4 games. 2023, it was 7 games. Last year with the Packers, 7 games again. And this was a frustration for the Packers. I think this isn't just an injury situation. I think there was some implication that he was not playing through injuries that the team felt like he could. This is an article from Chris Quick of Yahoo Sports. And here's what Chris writes about it. It marks quite the fall for Alexander, a former first-round pick who was one of the team's best players as recently as 2022. But injuries have plagued Alexander over the past 2 years. Back and shoulder issues limited Alexander to 7 games in 2023, and a knee issue caused Alexander to play in just 7 games in 2024. Prior to those injuries, Alexander had emerged as one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. Blah, blah, blah. He had signed a 4-year, $84 million extension in 2022, but the Packers offered a restructured deal, and Alexander refused to take a pay cut. So this is somewhat akin to the Uchenna Nwosu situation for the Seahawks. The Seahawks, in no way am I implying that they feel like Uchenna Nwosu could have played and didn't, but they paid him a pretty large salary for years that he then did not play that much. And from an injury situation, the team felt like they had to restructure that deal or had to lower that deal. Now, in this case, Uchenna Nwosu took the restructured deal. He took a pay cut. And he didn't want to do it. And he could have chosen to say, all right, just release me and I'll see what I can get in an open market. He and his agent either looked at that and said, you know what? We just want to stay in Seattle. We're going to stay here. This is the right place for us. That could be part of it. Or they looked around at what his market would be and believed that the money that Seattle was paying him was actually better or as good as he would get elsewhere. And so why change? In Jaire Alexander's case, he and his representation believe the market's going to be robust enough that he's going to get full freight on his existing extension and maybe more than that. So that's kind of where we are with this. You got an injured player who's been a very, very good cornerback when healthy. That has not happened almost at all over the last 4 seasons. It's not like 2 seasons. That's 4 seasons. You've had 1 out of 4 seasons where you've really got a player who's played most of the season, far less than half the season, 7 games. It's almost like a third of the season. Each of the last 2 years, 4 games in 2021. So that's why he's available. That's also his talent is why there'll be interest. It is a premium position. And now let's talk about the Seahawks. We know that the Seahawks are interested in a cornerback. We know that they have had Shaquille Griffin in. We know that they have had Rasul Douglas in. We also know that those guys have come and gone and have not signed a deal with Seattle. I can tell you, based off of a source within the organization, that the reason those deals haven't come yet is because they haven't agreed on money. And that the veteran players that they've brought in want more money than the Seahawks are willing to give them. And if that's the case, then you also have to think about the fact that the Seahawks, despite what you may think, maybe even what I might think, but despite what most people might think, they're not looking for a starting cornerback. That's not their perspective. The Seahawks are looking for essentially a 4th corner. And they like Josh Jobe. And they want Josh Jobe to have every opportunity to win that starting job. And I'll tell you from my own eyes, Josh Jobe has been one of the better players in practice when I've been there. So I think they're also interested in what they're going to have in Shamar Jean-Charles and DeAnthony Bell and Jaire Alexander. And I think there's other guys on that list that they are open to just seeing how that plays out. So if the Seahawks are balking at paying more than probably like veteran minimum, just to guess there, then I think what you're talking about is an unlikely match that they're then going to go spend $17 million a year on a guy that's been injured every year other than 1 out of the last 4 years. That seems like an odd fit. And if you sign Jaire Alexander, let's be really clear. He's starting. Josh Jobe is now a bench player. And I don't know that the team wants to do that or wants to send that message to a guy that they feel like has really earned that spot and earned an opportunity to start. I think bringing in a guy like Shaquille Griffin or Rasul Douglas, those guys can battle it out. And if they end up being bench players, so be it. Now, they might not feel that way. And I think teams would have some question about what it's like for a veteran to be on the bench. That's not always the best situation. Artie Burns was a great veteran to have around and was willing to be somebody who was more in the background. I'm not sure all veterans fit that bill. And I think this also applies to the Jalen Ramsey conversation. Are the Seahawks going to go spend $23 million a year on Jalen Ramsey plus trade whatever they have to trade to get him? I don't know. It seems pretty unlikely. And on top of all of this, there are some questions about Jaire Alexander as a guy in the locker room. And we know already there's some drama that comes with Jalen Ramsey. So I think it seems like a stretch that your Seattle Seahawks would be one of the teams that enters the Derby for Jaire Alexander. We can explore the conversation for a second. I mean, the Seahawks can afford to go do it if that's what they want to do. And let's play this the other way. Why would the Seahawks do this? Let's at least explore that. Why would they do that? Well, obviously he's a good player. You want to add good players. No question there. The other thing that I think would have to be true if the Seahawks were to do this is that they know already that they want to move on from Riq Woolen. Not this year necessarily, but he is in the last year of his deal. And maybe they're not planning to re-sign him. Brady Henderson on my show last week said he doesn't think the team is probably going to offer him a new contract when his contract is up. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not reporting that. And I think that's would be a crazy, crazy is the wrong word. That'd be surprising to me if they've already made that determination, because I think Riq Woolen is your best man cover corner and it's not close. And it's not easy to find Riq Woolens out there. But let's say for a second, if the team is of the mind that, yeah, this is Riq Woolen's last year with us, if they think Jaire Alexander can step in, then they've now got, he's not, based on what we just went through, he's not the best man cover corner, but he is a very good corner in general. And he might be a good fit for what the Seahawks run. Then that could be a seamless transition without really losing a lot of steam. I'm struggling with that logic because of the injury situation, because this is a guy that hasn't been on the field. And I also think, imagine the locker room implications for them to go and pay top dollar to a free agent cornerback on another team, from another team, hasn't played a snap for you, who's had all sorts of injury issues, and then basically have Riq Woolen play out the year on his final year of his contract. I think that changes the whole dynamic in that room. And I don't think it's a good change. And I think it could affect the way even the most strong-minded individual would have maybe a hard time giving his all to a team who he feels like has already kicked him to the curb. So I think it would be a tough situation. I also think Devin Witherspoon and Riq Woolen are very tight. I think that dynamic could make for a chilling effect on a newcomer coming in that's getting paid that much money. So, like, I don't know. Maybe those guys are already friends. Maybe it would not be an issue, but I think it's at least a question in my mind whether or not that's the right move for them. But that would be the logic is, okay, here's our chance to get maybe a lower price on a high quality player at a position where we already know we're going to need to add a high quality player next year. That would be the logic if you're the Seahawks and you were to do something like this. I kind of add all of that up and say, yeah, I don't think so. Like maybe like a 20% shot. Let's add other factors into this. Are the Seahawks the only team that's going to be going after him? No, of course not. And I will say this, if you are the Los Angeles Rams, makes a lot of sense. If you are the San Francisco 49ers, it makes a lot of sense. And of those two teams, by the way, if you're at Arizona Cardinals, it makes a lot of sense. So the 49ers have $46 million in cap space, second most in the NFL right now. They have the money to go do this if they want. The Raiders, by the way, don't sleep on Pete Carroll going after his cornerbacks. The Raiders have $36 million in cap space. The Eagles have $32 million. The Eagles have it. They have their young cornerbacks and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Probably not, but there's been already some rumors that might be a team that's interested. The Dallas Cowboys have $32 million in cap space. The Cardinals have $32 million. The Seahawks have 31. The Seahawks have plenty of cap space. The Rams, who I've been interested in, they have $19 million in cap space. So it might be a little bit tougher for the Rams to make it work, but I mean, the Rams, we already know they've been kind of toying with the idea of bringing back Jalen Ramsey. Do they forget about trade compensation and just go pay a guy? It's possible. And how would you feel if they signed him? Because I always think that's a useful exercise to go through to kind of gauge whether or not you really should have your team going after them. And honestly, it's mixed. I mean, like, to have one of the teams in the NFC West go spend big money on Jaire Alexander and then have him be injured again and unavailable, that's not something I'd hate to see happen, obviously. And I don't want to be injured, but I don't want those teams to have good things happen to them. But I would not be surprised. Like, what typically happens in some of these situations is the player is ultra motivated to kind of prove his last team wrong. And so you're probably going to get a great single season, at least, out of Jaire Alexander. You're going to get his most availability, his best effort this year. And that could be enough for a Rams team to really make a leap. It could be enough for the 49ers to have a defense that has real questions on the front line make a leap as well. So as much as I look at this and think, I just don't think the Seahawks are going to make this move. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. Doesn't really pass the smell test. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he winds up in the NFC West. So, there is no question to me that he is a talented player. That's not the question. The question is whether you are going to get your money's worth if you go and get him. And that includes not only his performance, his availability, but the ripple effect within the rest of the locker room and the rest of the team. I think that's a question. Got more to cover here. Before I do, remember, it is Father's Day coming up soon. We got a special deal from Extra.com. Extra Pro Wallet. This one right here, this gorgeous little guy. Thin. And if you use code HAWK, HAWK, you get 50% off this guy. And by the way, you get this little button here. You push it. Your cards come out. So you can get easy access to your cards. You got like billfold for money. And you've got this little finder card here, which connects to your Apple Find My iPhone. So you can always find your wallet wherever it is. And since you're giving it to your dad or your granddad, you can help them find their wallet. Because let's be honest, they're not going to be able to figure out the Find My iPhone thing probably. You can do that for them, help them get that. It's a great deal. And it's a great wallet. And they're going to be happy to have it. Go over to Extra.com. Find the link in the description of the video. Use promo code HAWK to get 50% off. Yeah. Here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. I don't think the Seahawks are going to sign Jaire Alexander. I do think the Seahawks are going to sign a veteran corner. I do think it's going to be someone that comes in later in training camp, because the thing is, folks, these veteran corners, the veteran players in general, they're not eager to come in for OTAs and mini camp. They'd rather just take their off season and vacation in the Caymans or wherever they want to be. So they're not in a hurry. If they're not getting the money that they're looking for right now from a team, what's their motivation to sign right away? They'll wait it out. They'll see if they can get the money they're looking for. And if not, they will sign their lower price deal closer to when camp starts, end of July. Right? So I don't think this is a situation where the Seahawks are going to probably get this corner room changed soon. Maybe something will change, but I think most likely you're not going to see that until later in the summer. And I think the thing to watch is what's going to happen with other teams. And let's hope he signs with somebody in the AFC. And therefore, if things work out, it doesn't really affect the Seahawks that much. And if they don't, it doesn't really affect the Seahawks that much either. If you haven't given the show a like, click subscribe, please do. Got over 20,000 subscribers here. Would love to add you. If you haven't gone to hbtix.com, make sure you do, because my goodness, it is really popping over there. And we've got, I'll show you right here. Check out all the tickets that we have got over on hbtix.com. You can go and buy one of these tickets if you want. There's club level seats. There's field level seats. You can go and find out, where this is. Here's one from Cam Buckenberger. And I've got this link here, this button here, where you can directly message the seller now to send them to show that you're interested in their seat. We've got over 700 users already signed up on this, which is awesome. Make sure that you share this with as many people as possible. hbtix.com. Let's make sure as many seats in Lumen Field are sold to Seahawks fans. This is the only place you can send people where Seahawks fans, verified Seahawks fans, are selling to other verified Seahawks fans. You can't on Ticketmaster, on StubHub, all these other places. You can't control who buys your ticket. You can here. And I've got all the instructions for how to do it safely as best as possible. And let's just take some responsibility and take some control back as fans to get as many Seahawks fans in those seats as possible. We've already had sales. I'm super excited. Multiple sales on the site. List your tickets, buy tickets, just sign up, all those things at hbtix.com. All right. So other bits of news, not like a bunch of stuff. We did see that the Texans, an opponent of the Seahawks, are going to sign Nick Chubb, former Cleveland Browns running back who's been injured a bunch. He is going to be added to the Texans running back room. And if he is back to anything close to full strength, he's a good player. And that is a new, challenge potentially for the Seahawks run defense when the Texans come to town for what I believe is a Monday Night Football game. Other little bits of news. This is not news, but, there was a post I shared on Twitter of a 49ers fan who asked 49ers fans to give their early score prediction for week 1 against the Seahawks. What would you guess? What would you guess 49ers fans think the score is going to be against the Seahawks? Like, this is a 6-win team from last year that completely made over their defense, cut a lot of veterans, or did not re-sign them in some cases. They've got a lot of rookies starting on defense. Back to new coach on that side. Robert Saleh is their defensive coordinator. Well, I will tell you. Here's some of the things. 42-17, San Francisco. JSN gets smacked in the mouth by Lenore. Kenneth Walker runs for 22 yards, 39 yards on 22 attempts. Sam Darnold gets sacked 7 times. Another one, 48-10. Brock Purdy will have 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey will have 2 touchdowns. Defense will absolutely stuff the run. 37-17 49ers. 32-10 49ers. Darnold's a dud. Purdy and defense will shine. 42-16 49ers. 27-7, 24-10, 34-13, 31-17, 42-17, 38-17, 27-10, 42-13. I mean, folks, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Well, I'm looking forward. If the Seahawks win that game, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to really enjoy looking through that thread. Because last time I checked, the Seahawks went into, I would say San Francisco, but it's really Santa Clara. And Mike McDonald and his defense absolutely terrorized the 49ers offense. They had no answer. It was their lowest output of the season, at least up until that point. And they had Christian McCaffrey. He was already back. He had a game under his belt. He was healthy. He had played reasonably well against the Tampa Bay Bucks the week before. So I don't want to hear any of that as an excuse. And we'll see. We'll see. You know, obviously they'll get Brandon Ayuk back. You think. I don't know if he'll stay healthy, but you'd assume. Deebo Samuel was bottled up in that game. He's no longer there. Ricky Pearsall was totally bottled up in that game. Yeah, I am looking forward to that first week of the season. And make no mistake about it, with those kinds of expectations from 49ers fans, the potential for injury to their soul, their collective soul, is palpable. So let's wait for that first week. There's a lot of time between now and then. But should the Seahawks take care of business in week 1, it will set an absolute tone for the whole season. Absolute tone for the whole season. So I'm looking forward to that one. And I really hope the Seahawks pay it off. As a team that struggled at home last year, that got blown out by the 49ers at home last year, that were run all over by the 49ers at home last year before they made all these changes. That's a statement game. It is a statement game for the Seahawks, especially for the Seahawks defense. And I'll tell you this, I don't think the 49ers are a team that does well when they're not front running, when they're not ahead by 20 points. I don't think they're a team that's built to win in the clutch. So all you got to do is punch first. And we saw that in that game down in Santa Clara where the Seahawks, the first series, like stuffed the 49ers. And it was such a stark contrast. Like when things have gone wrong for the Seahawks against the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, it's right away. You know, 2 years ago, it was Christian McCaffrey running for like 76 yards on the first play of the game, you know, on their typical outside zone kind of play. So bottling it up early and giving the offense a chance, I think is going to be big. It is going to be a challenge for the Seahawks to make all that work, especially on offense in week 1. All right, I think I've got a super chat, and I'm going to have to run here in a second. This is Super Sauce XL, has been a member for over a year. Love it. It says, love Hawk Blogger mornings. Percentage odds you would guess for a starting running back. I think you're asking, who do I think is the most likely to be the starting running back for the Seahawks? I think it's Kenneth Walker, like over 90%. And the only reason it's not 100% is maybe there's an injury, maybe there's a trade. Like, that's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. Kenneth Walker is just I think he's a guy that could be a star if things actually add up correctly in terms of the right offense, his health, the offensive line, the play calling, all that kind of stuff. I think he could be the story of the Seahawks offense this year. And it almost needs to be for the Seahawks offense to be the right type of offense for this season. Let me look to see if there's anything else before I sign off, if there's anything else that I wanted to cover with you all. Yes. So Ian Rappaport did report this yesterday, that the Dolphins and star cornerback Jalen Ramsey continue to work towards a trade. Ramsey is not planning on attending mandatory minicamp this week. Sources say he'll stay away as the situation works to a conclusion. So they're going to trade Jalen Ramsey. It's not a question of if, it's when, and then it's to whom. And I still think the Rams seem like the team that are going to be most willing to pay what is required to bring him back. They know him. They've worked with him. They've had him in the locker room. Jalen Ramsey knows what it's like. Maybe there's some chance that he is just outright released if they can't find a trade partner. If that's the case, I still think the Rams are the most likely destination because he's been there. He's won with them. LA is, certainly a draw for a lot of people. So I think those are the odds. I want to see if I can find anywhere online. Odds, Jalen Ramsey. Odds to land Jalen Ramsey. Oh, the Raiders are currently 4-1. The Arizona Cardinals are 5-1. The 49ers are 7-1. That's kind of fascinating. Huh. I mean, I could absolutely see Pete Carroll acquiring Jalen Ramsey. But good luck having him, that personality in Las Vegas. That'd be an interesting one. The Cardinals, I can't see them making a deal like that. I mean, the fit makes sense, but I don't know, man. It seems unlikely if they would make a trade and then pay that much money for an older corner. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see on Jalen Ramsey. All right. So I think I see one more super chat here. Shane Turner says, do you believe they'll try and get Alexander? If you're talking about Jaire Alexander, I'd encourage you to rewind and watch the first half an hour of the show. We covered all that there. The quick answer is no. I do not think that they will make that acquisition. I don't think it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't think that, given what I know about the Seahawks position on their cornerback room, it doesn't seem like the kind of player that they would add. All right. I will just give people a quick note in chat. I see on chat, one of the guidelines for the community here is you got to be kind to each other. I'm going to be a stickler for that. So if you have an opinion about a player, about the team, about football, fine, totally fine. People can have different opinion. Do not attack each other. Do not take shots at each other. Let's keep the chat friendly and positive. If you're gonna be toxic or harsh to each other, I'll give you some warnings, but eventually I'll just ask you not to be part of the channel. I mean, I love growing the channel, but I am going to be particular about the people that we have here. So the part of the point is to have a positive, friendly community. So let's just keep that in mind. And if you have a different opinion, that's fine, but do not take shots at people. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Hawkblogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday. I'll be back with you tomorrow, and we will get into mandatory minicamp. I will be there as always, and we'll have more interviews with more players. And Mike McDonald will be talking to press tomorrow, so I'll have a chance to talk to Coach and ask him some questions. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.